back. Today we will not be working on a big block Dodge or installing transmissions in a Dodge truck, and we will not be changing the transmission in the Dodge clock. We're going to be working on this Mercury Comet. This is a 62 Mercury Comet S22. Pretty cool car. I've had this thing for a while. It's been somebody's project that they just kind of left, and I purchased this a couple years back, and I'm getting to it now. They've tacked in a Mustang 2 front end. I've already done a bunch of work. I'm going to pull all that apart. I'm going to get after it. This is a pretty cool car, so stick around. All right, we got the front end off. We got the fenders off. I actually didn't realize that the front rad support was just bolted on. Everything lined up really nice. The hood, the fenders, everything was pretty good. I've got it all sitting over there, so now I can take each fender and kind of go through that, fix the metal on that. But what we got here is, this was pretty rude and crude the way it was welded in. It's actually, the measurements are good. All right, maybe not all the measurements. I'm looking at these crappy bars and they're just way out to lunch, which is all right because I'm going to change them, but not right now. So I've got my degree finder. I've had them on the spindles, and ideally the spindles, the way it's sitting, I want to have at least -3 degrees that way, and now they're sitting pulled into the top. And the reason they're pulled into the top is because they have put all those washers in there. And the reason they put the washers in there is because this has a lip and they can't get it down. So I'm gonna notch that lift out and I'm gonna box that in and I'll weld that up nice and stout. And I don't really like the setup where that's just set up like that, so I'm going to make a change here. So I am going to notch that out so I can bring that down, and then I'm going to turn the mounting point that direction and make that all better, and then I will be able to upgrade easily with some performance A-arms and be able to utilize all that adjustable stuff. So the first thing I got to do is get these coil springs out of here, and I don't have a coil spring compressor, so I'm going to make one. So stick around, let's see how this goes. All right, I've got that side removed. I've come up with a puller. I will show you what I got. So this was my initial idea. I thought I would take this puller apart, use this star shape, and get a long threaded bolt to put through. But I was looking in my box and I was like, oh yes, the infamous works for everything puller. So if you got a piece of fairly thick, decent sized steel, now this I use for pulling motorcycle clutches, steering wheels, there's an assortment of stuff. So this is basically a ready rod and a nut welded on there. If you don't have a welder, you can double nut, triple nut, whatever you got to do to make it stay in there. And the most important thing about if you're building a puller like this is the nut should be a higher grade than the shaft. So if you do have failure and you pull threads out, you're gonna pull threads out of the shaft, and all it will do is you'll feel it move a notch or a thread, but it won't totally let go. So if you had the nut being the weaker point, if the threads let go in the nut and not the shaft, it would just blow apart. So that's kind of a good little rule of thumb to use when you're doing anything. It's just kind of see what the weakest link is, and if it's gonna break there, see if you can deal with it. So anyways, I'm gonna take this setup and I am gonna pull the other spring. I'm gonna show you guys. This hole here comes into play when I have the spring and the tool on, because when you're tightening or loosening, it's going to want to turn, and then that nut rides up against the spring and doesn't allow it to turn. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, so I've got my plate in here. I've got my pin through it. What is super important is because the shaft isn't quite as long as I'd like it to be, I'm going to, like, if I put a floor jack on here, it's going to be tension. So when I release this, this spring still has some tension in it when this all comes apart. So you're going to have to watch that. So now, I don't know if you guys can see it there. I get it started, and this bolt hole is there because when I tighten it, this is going to want to turn with. So I just spin that in there, and that's going to twist and hold itself together. Just like that. Now I'm going to start cranking it up. Basically, I just want to have a good bite of it. You can see there's still tension there. I could use a ratchet on it, but when I do stuff like this, I've been asked before, but I kind of like to use hand tools just so if I can feel a thread going or something, I'll be able to feel it in my hand instead of whop and pow. So this I can kind of feel the tension. Feels like it's doing everything it needs to do. It's lifting. Still tight on there. What I'm looking, I'm just going to tighten it until I can see a gap there. So yeah, that seems to be doing what it's supposed to do. Now it's getting tight. See, that's loose. It's actually free, so I'm going to pull the bottom, this control arm bolt out, drop that out. All right, so that little tool worked just fine. That pulled it right out, so now that gives me access. I'll finish taking that all apart, and that'll probably wrap it up for this video. But I'm going to come back and I'm going to box everything in. I'm going to make this frame all good. I'm going to show you how to use templates and stress points and good ways to weld to make sure everything stays nice and sturdy. And yeah, we're just going to keep picking away at this car, and every time I come up with a helpful hint, I'm going to post it up and see if it helps you guys. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned.